Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivaranam Chatubhujam Prasanna Dhyayet Sarva Vighnopasantaye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarvalokanam Vijale Bhavarogina Nidhaye Sarva Vidyanam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Shruti Smriti Purananamayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Shankaram Lokashankaram Apara Karuna Sindhum Jnanadam Shantarupinam Shri Chandrasekhara Gurum Pranamami Mudalvaham Parityajyamunam Vathalasthitiಂ Javrajan Bharatasya Pradeshat Pradesham Madhusyanti Vacha Janan Dharmamargenayan Shri Jayendro Gururbhati Chitte Namama Shankaran Vakya Vijayendra Saraswati Shri Gurum Dishtamarganunedaram Sanmati Pradam Satyanarayana Kshetrat Satyavratam Upadatam Ashraye Kapakotisham Satya Shri Chandrasekharam Sadguru Charanarindabhyam Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. So in the Shloka, in chapter Karma Yoga, Bhagavan is explaining. Arjuna asked the question, Hey Swami, if everybody's birth is predetermined because of their previous vasanas, then why do people don't follow their karma? For that, Krishna says, Kama yesha, Krodha yesha, Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha. Kama yesha, Krodha yesha, Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha. Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyenam Iha Vairinam. So Krishna says, Hey Arjuna, because of Kama and Krodha, people start to do Papa. Kama and Krodha are the reasons for people's Papa. And here Acharya says, Kama yesha sarvaloka shatruhu yad nimitta sarvan artha praptihi pranina sa yesha kamaha. Pratihataha kenachit krodhatvena parinamate ataha krodha api yesha eva. Acharya says, hey, people really think there is a difference between kama and krodha. But there is no difference between kama and krodha. Because unfulfilled kama becomes krodha. Sayesha kamaha pratihataha kenachit krodhena parinamate athaha krodhaha api yesha eva. I wanted a particular promotion in my office. That want is kama. But somebody is standing in between me and my promotion. Because of that, I did not get promotion. What will that karma become? The karma will convert into krodha, anger towards that person who stopped me from getting that promotion. So whenever we have a block that is there, that is blocking our kama, the kama becomes krodha. And we can see that the intensity of krodha, the intensity of the anger, is directly proportional to the intensity of kama. I thought, okay, this is cute. So I see an object. See, okay, that's a cute object. I don't mind having that object. But somebody destroys that object. I'm not going to have any anger towards them because the intensity of my karma is very, very less. But there is something else which I wanted to my life. அது இருந்தாதான் என்னால வாழ முடியும். I place a great this thing for that object, great liking for that object. If somebody blocks that, then the krodha will become very, very high. But objectively, that object need not be that important. Objectively, what it should be, what it should have been, the intensity of your anger should be proportional to the objective value of that object. But it will not be. It will not be directly proportional to the objective value, but it will be proportional to the subjective value of that object. You go to a kid, you give him $100 rupee, $100 note, $100 bank note, and a balloon. The kid is not going to worry about the $100 note. The infant will be so much attracted only towards the balloon. If somebody pulls away the $100 note from the kid's hand, the kid is not going to cry. But if somebody pulls away the balloon from the kid's hand, the kid will be crying. Even though I can buy 200, 300 balloons with that $100 notebook, $100 note, the kid does not know that. It is always a subjective value. Later when the same kid grows up, the kid will be thinking, oh, no, what is this balloon business? Only the $100 note is very valuable. But when it is the kid will not know it. Even for us, we would have a very adverse reaction for a situation. After we pass away, after we, come up from that adverse situation, when we think back, we will be thinking, oh, why did I react to this situation like that? We all would have had situations like that. இதுக்கு போய் நம்ம எண்ணத்துக்காக இவ்வளவு ரொம்ப கேவலமா பிஹேவ் பண்ணோம். We have gotten angry, we have spoken words which should not have been spoken. Objectively, the situation will not make sense to anybody else. For anybody else. Objectively, இதுக்கெல்லாம் போய் ஏன்பா கோவப்பட்டது? People will come and tell. But for you, it would have been a very big thing. It would have been a big deal. Right? Because your karma towards that object is very, very high. That is why we should train our body. We should train our body, mind. We should train our mind to handle karma very, very carefully. Karma illamal karma. Right. So that is why, even if you see in Lalita Sahasranama, Ambal has kama and krodha on her hands. When we see about the 4 different objects that are present in Ambal's hand, Srimata Shri Maharagni Srimad Simhasaneshwari Chidadvigunda Sambhuta Devakarya Samudyata Udyatvanu Sagasrava Chadurbahu Samanvita Ragasvarupa Pashadhya Krodhakaram Kushojvala Manorupe Kshugodanda Panchatanmatra Sayika Ragaha means Kamaha Ragasvarupa Pashadhya Krodhakaram Kushojvala. Ambal is having Kama and Krodha as Pasham and Ankusham. And Amba says, hey, when you have Kama and Krodha under your clutches, you can become me. So it is very important to have Kama and Krodha under a person's clutches. Acharya follows Rajoguna Samudbhavaha Rajogunad Samudbhavaha Yasya Saha Kamaha Rajoguna Samudbhavaha Rajogunasyava Samudbhava. See, Kama, the Shloka it says Kamayesha, Krodayesha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. It is a vicious cycle. Kamam and Krodam will be more if you have lots of Rajoguna. And if you have Kamam and Krodam, it is going to increase your Rajoguna. Kamaha ki udbhuto rajaha pravartayan purusham pravartayati. So Kamaha, Kamakroda begets Rajoguna. Rajoguna begets Kamakroda. So there is no way to get out of that cycle. If I have Rajoguna, I will have Kama and Krodha. If I have Kama and Krodha, I will have Rajoguna. So how to get out of that cycle now? There are lots of spiritual practices that trains your body to handle your Kama and Krodha. You know, the first spiritual training is understand that any extreme reaction that comes from us, it is because of Kama and Krodha. Understand that, acknowledge that. You go to a modern psychiatrist, this is something that they say, you have to face your fears. You have to acknowledge that the problem exists. We keep on living in denial. We don't even want to acknowledge that the problem exists. But Shastra says, hey, first acknowledge that problem exists. And one way of acknowledging is doing japam. What japam we do? We are not doing Ramanama japa or Harinama japa or Haranama japa. We do Kama and Krodha japa. Kamokareshi, Tvanjurakareshi, Namo Namaha. 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 Once in a year, you have to do this japa daily. But at least once in a year, it's part of Sandhya Vandanam itself. But once in a year, we do this japa. I didn't do anything. Kama did anything. I didn't do anything. Krodha did everything. I didn't do anything. Kama did everything. Krodha did everything. Kama did everything. Krodha did everything. Doing this japa with the arthanusandhanam, with the meaning inside your mind. Try to objectify your Kama and Krodha. That is the first step. And then we talk about reduction of Kama and Krodha and all later. But first understand, objectify. Objectify Kama and Krodha. I am not that. You are something different. I am something different. I am something that transcends the realms of Kama and Krodha. You have to train your mind like that. You have to train your mind. And there are lots of spiritual practices that breaks the cycle of karma. There are lots of spiritual practices that breaks the cycle of karma. Because how do karma come? We talk about karma. Karma means desire. How does desire? Later or earlier, Krishna would have said, Krishna gives a cycle for karma, etc. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यसि ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते. If you keep on thinking about a particular thing, you will have an affinity towards that object. That is how all these advertisement works. You open YouTube, I have tons of advertisement. You start TV, tons of advertisement. You go out, there will be lots of advertisement. How these advertisement work? It will flash things into your eyes. Then, even unknowingly, we will we will start to have an affinity for that object. New iPhone model, iPhone 20 model comes. So I will start to have an affinity for that iPhone 20. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Upajayate. I keep on thinking upon that object. I will have an affinity for that object. Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha. I will imagine myself using that iPhone. These days, Amazon, you are trying to buy a table. How these companies have exploited our um, thinking. I want to buy a table. Previously, it used to be all imaginative. Now, they even have a virtual reality app. You would not have bought the table, but you use your camera, you position in the camera, you show the place where you are going to keep the table. These companies will actually place the table virtually. If the table is there in my house, how it is going to look like. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. It is going to increase your karma for the table. Kamat krodho bijayate. Once you have karma, you are going to have krodha. I put it order or I want to buy it. Somebody from my house, they say, no, don't buy, don't waste money. Your wife or your husband or your parents. You are going to say, don't buy it. And then we will have a whole drama in the house. You are not letting me buy anything, blah, 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 blah. Everything is going to come. So when you want to kill karma at its first in the beginning, you have to take care of the dhyayato vishayan puksaha sangasteshu upajayate, the dhyanam and the sangaha. You have to take care of your karma, not after you have got the karma, but even before you get the karma. Not after, because after you get the karma, you remember Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavad Gita says, don't buy it. Because of Bhagavad Gita, you are not buying it now. You will still have anger. The anger will be towards the Bhagavad Gita. Because what did I say? Anything that stands in between you and your karma, you are going to get anger. So, why didn't I buy the table? Because Bhagavad Gita said so. Because my Gita teacher said so. You will still have anger. You will have anger towards the poor Bhagavad Gita or poor Gita teacher. So once you get karma, it is going to be, once it matures into karma, it is going to be very, very hard to control it. So the easier way to control your karma, your desires, is by regulating the two previous steps. First is dhyana, Vishaya dhyana, and then Vishaya sangaha. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Karmat Krodho Bhijayate. So if you take care at the level of Dhyana and Sangha, you can, it is easier to regulate your karma. So that is why our Shastras have prescribed lots of things. When you see the timetable of Shastras, it will not give you any free time. That is one way of approaching it. Only when I watch advertisement, I will have all these karma. I will not even watch the advertisement. That is one way of approaching life. You keep yourself busy with good things. Good things, again, it is a subjective thing. But if you keep on entertaining yourself with Bhagavad Gita class, Upanishad class, or Ramanama Japam, or any mantra japam, or any upasana that is going to keep yourself busy, you won't even have time to look at all these things. Only when you look at all these things, you are going to get calm. That is one way of doing that. Another way of doing that is, see, all these things, these are not told by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. I am just compiled the various practices that has worked for me, that has worked for other people as well. So one way is to keep yourself busy. Another way is to see doshams in that object. Dosha darshanam. If you see any object, try to find faults with the object. We are very good at finding fault. குத்தம் கண்டுபிடிச்சே பெயர் வாங்குறதுல நம்ம எல்லாம் ரொம்ப சிறந்தவர். Try to find dosha with that object. In fact, Swami Paramatmananda says, any anatma has got three doshas. There are some object-specific dosha. I'm going to buy an iPhone. If I will look at the review, okay, it says Samsung is better than iPhone. iPhone has got all these flaws, A, B, C, D, E. So because of these flaws, iPhones have, I'm not going to buy an iPhone. That is one way of dosha darshanam. But the problem is that when I see the review, then you will be comparing iPhone with some other phone. Now I have karma for that phone. We should not get into that loop. Right? Or there is a common dosha. There is a common dosha for any objects. We can just remember those doshas of that object. Any anatma that we are going to encounter is going to have these three doshas. Dukkha mishritatvam, adriptikaratvam, and bandhakaratvam. Let us take gulab jamun as an example. Dukkha mishritatvam. I want to eat gulab jamun. Right? Gulab jamun is my kama. Is my desire. But in order to get to gulab jamun, it is not an easy thing. Not like, okay, I sit in front of a table, I say I want gulab jamun, somebody is going to keep gulab jamun in front of me. It is not going to do that. I need to work in order to get to gulab jamun. If I want gulab jamun, I need to work for it. I need to spend the money. Right? Somebody need to put on efforts. Or I need to put on efforts. I need to go buy gulab jamun mix or make gulab jamun, fry it. When I fry it, the oil is going to fall on my hand. All these dukkham will be there in eating gulab jamun. And not only the dukkham before eating gulab jamun, there is also going to be dukkham after eating gulab jamun. The moment I eat gulab jamun, it is going to be very, very pleasureful. But after I eat gulab jamun, I will go to doctor. Doctor will say you have diabetes, you should not have eaten gulab jamun. So if they do not eat any sweet for 1 month or 2 months, that one moment of weakness, they would have 2 or 3 gulab jamun. It's going to have repercussions 3 months, 4 months. My H1B A1C is going to be very high, 3 months average. So all these problems are going to be there. My doctor is going to advise me, my kids are going to advise me, my parents are going to advise me, my spouse is going to advise me. All these are dukkha vishritatvam. And the second problem with gulab jamun is atriptikaratvam. Hey, I will be very, very strong. I will eat only one gulab jamun. I will eat one gulab jamun. I see a bowl full of gulab jamun. What will happen? I want to eat more. No gulab jamun will give me tripti. I will eat this gulab jamun. And then I will say, யாரோ ஒருத்தர் கஷ்டப்பட்டு குலாப் ஜாமுன் பண்ணி கொடுத்துருப்பா. I will eat this gulab jamun. I will not be சும்மா இருக்க மாட்டேன். அவாத்துக்கு அந்த கல்யாணத்துல போட்ட குலாப் ஜாமுன் மாதிரி இது இல்லைன்னு ஒரு கமெண்ட் பாஸ் பண்றேன். எனக்கு கஷ்டப்பட்டு யாரோ ஒருத்தர் குலாப் ஜாமுன் பண்ணி கொடுத்துருக்கா, அவள்கிட்ட நான் திட்டுவேன். It is called as atripti karat. Whatever thing that we get, whatever object that we get, can never give us 100% satisfaction. I bought iPhone 18, 17, whatever the new model is. Within 6 months, Apple is going to release another iPhone. Now, what will I think? Hey, no, I should have waited for that iPhone model. And if I don't know that, somebody is going to come and tell you, hey, did you see the new Apple model, Apple event? They have got a new iPhone much more better than what you have. Poch atripti. Normally people will say if somebody is buying a house, they will say they have this buyer's regret. The moment they sign the document for the house, instantaneously they will have this buyer's regret. Whether did I do the right thing or not? That house, it has got more amenities than this. If we have saved a little bit more, or if we saved a little bit more, we could have afforded that house. Now I'm stuck with this, blah, 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 blah. So any anatma that you buy, it is never going to give you 100% satisfaction. Probably the moment you eat that gulab jamun, you will be satisfied. But after that, you will never be satisfied. So dukkha vishritatvam is the first one. First problem with anatma. Atripti karatvam is the second problem with anatma. The third problem with anatma is bandhakatvam. It will make you addicted towards that. Only when I have gulab jamun, I will be happy. Only when I have the latest iPhone model, I will be happy. Only I will have the latest Tesla car, I will be happy. What is wrong in that? You are placing the keys for your happiness in somebody else's hands. There can be situations where you have lots of money, but you will not be able to eat gulab jamun. There will be situations where you have lots of money, you will not be able to buy that iPhone. There will be situations where I have lots of money, but I will not be able to buy the Tesla car. It could be as simple as, there is no shop nearby, or it could be as complicated as a lockdown. Because of that, nobody is making. Or it can be even more complicated. Apple has shut off its shop. Apple company ceases to exist. It can be anything. Right? You are having a dependency on an external object for your happiness. The moment you are dependent on an external object for your happiness, there will be disappointment. because that external object will never exist 100% always. So these are the three doshas that you should see with each and every object. இதென்ன எப்ப பார்த்தாலும் புத்தகம் படிக்கிற மாதிரியே இருக்கே கிடையாது. You will start, if you closely observe your mind, you will know when you are having the dhyanam of that particular object, when you are having an affinity for that particular object, when that affinity is converting into raga, all these things you yourself can see in your mind. So these are some of the ways by which you can take care of your karma and krodha. There are also other ways, because the shloka says kamayesha krodhayesha rajo guna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapatma. The kama and krodha are closely related with rajoguna. And I have told you that kama krodha increases your rajoguna and rajoguna increases your kama and krodha. So there is a way by which we can externally influence and decrease our rajoguna. You can handle your kama and krodha. And that is why Shastra has placed lots of restrictions on food. So Gunatraya is going to come later. In the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going to talk about Rajoguna, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamo-guna, etc. But the food that we eat has got lots of ramifications on our Gunatraya status. There are some tamasic food. There are some rajasic food. There are some sattvic food. If we eat sattvic food, then automatically the rajoguna and tamoguna will go down. So the extent of your karma becoming krodha will be less. If people know math, they can easily understand. If I say A is proportional to B, if I want to put that an equation, I will put A is equal to some constant times B. If you want to take off the proportional sign, put an equal to sign. You have to introduce a constant. My karma is proportional to krodha. My krodha is proportional to karma, I say. If I want to put that into an equation, krodha is equal to some constant times karma. That constant depends upon your rajoguna. If you have more rajoguna, the constant will be high. If you have less rajoguna, the constant will be low. So overall, you can reduce, you can modify, you can play around that equation either by decreasing your karma. If that is not possible, you decrease, you pull down that constant, you make that constant zero. So whatever karma you have got, your krodha is going to be zero. That is how people can modify their mind. And that happens because of sattvika ahara. Because your rajoguna and tamoguna will be very, very less. And if your rajoguna and tamoguna will be very, very less, obviously your karma and the krodha will be taken care of. That is why we have got all these shastras, all these vratams, etc. Yesterday was Ekadashi vratam. You should not eat. Every day I want to have a cup of coffee for me to be very, very happy. Ekadashi vrata, for one day, try to see if you can live happily without having coffee. It is going to be harder. Probably for initial couple of Ekadashis, you are going to be very, very grumpy. But later, you yourself will know that, hey, I can live without that object. I am addicted to my cell phone. I think that my cell phone, I cannot live without cell phone. I have lots of karma towards my cell phone. Till when you will have that karma, till then you understand that, hey, it is very, very easy to live without cell phone. Shastra gives us that practice. Food, okay, have, reserve some day, do not eat what you want. Sleep. Ekadashi day, Vaikunta Ekadashi day, do not sleep. For Shraddha, there is a niyama. For all the vratas, there is niyama. For some days, you have to eat in the morning. You have to eat only in the afternoon. You should not eat in the night. For some days, you should eat only in the night. You should not eat in the afternoon. Normal vegetables which we can eat at all the times, for some time, Shastra say do not eat it. All these things are there just to show us that, hey, it is okay. If that object is not there, you are not going to die. You will probably think, ஐயோ அது இல்லைன்னா என்னால உயிரோடயே இருக்க முடியாதுன்னு you can think, but it is okay. You can live without that object. So if we follow those rituals, we can take care of our kama and krodha. And it is very, 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 very important to take care of our kama and krodha. If we do not take home any other message in Bhagavad Gita, that is okay. But this message has to be taken home and it has to be followed as well. With this, we'll finish this class. Om Namaste Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Guru Namaha Hari Om. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.